Welcome to Creepy, the best horror storyteller on YouTube.
Mary had always been fascinated by the abandoned mansion on the outskirts of town. It was a sprawling Gothic structure with dark turrets and gargoyles that loomed over the surrounding trees. The locals whispered about the mansion, saying that it was haunted by the ghost of a former owner who had gone mad and killed his family. Mary didn't believe in ghosts, but she was intrigued by the mansion's mysterious history. One day, she decided to explore it. She climbed over the wrought iron fence and made her way up the overgrown path to the front door. The door was unlocked, so she pushed it open and stepped inside. The mansion was dark and dusty, and the air was thick with the smell of decay. Mary wandered through the empty rooms, marveling at the high ceilings and ornate fireplaces. She could feel the weight of history all around her. As she explored, Mary began to hear footsteps behind her. She turned around, but there was no one there. She brushed it off, thinking it was just her imagination. But the footsteps continued, following her wherever she went. Mary started to feel uneasy. She tried to ignore the footsteps, but it was impossible. She could hear them echoing through the empty rooms, getting closer and closer. She began to walk faster, but the footsteps kept pace. Mary ran down the hallway and burst through a door into a large ballroom. The room was empty, but the footsteps were still there, right behind her. She turned around to face the footsteps, but there was nothing there. Mary was terrified. She didn't know what to do. She started to cry, and then she heard a voice. "Mary," the voice whispered. "Don't be afraid." Mary turned around, but there was no one there. "Who's there?" she asked. "It's me," the voice said. "I've been waiting for you." Mary took a step back. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm the one who's been following you," the voice said. "I'm the one who's been watching you." Mary's heart was pounding in her chest. She turned to run, but the door was locked. She was trapped. The footsteps got closer and closer. Mary could feel the creature's breath on her neck. She closed her eyes and screamed. Mary woke up the next morning in her bed in the mansion. She was covered in sweat and her heart was racing. She sat up and looked around, but the room was empty. She took a deep breath and tried to calm down. She remembered the footsteps from the night before, but she couldn't tell if it had been a dream or not. She decided to go downstairs and investigate. When she got to the ballroom, she saw that the door was still unlocked. She pushed it open and stepped inside. The room was empty, but she could still feel the creature's presence. Mary walked to the center of the room and called out to the creature. "I know you're here," she said. "Show yourself." The room was silent. Mary waited for a moment, but nothing happened. "Fine," she said. "If you're not going to show yourself, then I'll find you." Mary began to search the ballroom. She looked under the tables and chairs and behind the curtains. She even checked the closets, but the creature was nowhere to be found. Mary was about to give up when she heard a noise behind her. She turned around and saw a dark shadow moving across the wall. She took a step back, but the shadow followed her. Mary ran out of the ballroom and down the hallway. The shadow chased after her, getting closer and closer. Mary turned a corner and ran into a bedroom. She slammed the door shut and locked it. She leaned against the door, panting heavily. The shadow appeared outside the door. It was tall and thin, with long, spindly fingers. Mary could see its glowing red eyes staring at her through the glass. The creature pounded on the door, trying to get in. Mary screamed for help, but no one came. The creature broke through the door and lunged at Mary. She screamed and fell to the ground. The creature climbed on top of her and pinned her down. Mary tried to fight back, but the creature was too strong. It raised its hand to strike, but before it could land the blow, something stopped it. Mary looked up and saw a figure standing in the doorway. It was a man, tall and handsome, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes. He was wearing a long black coat. The man raised his hand, and the creature recoiled in pain. The creature turned and ran out of the room. The man walked over to Mary and helped her to her feet. "Are you all right?" he asked. Mary nodded, still too shaken to speak. Who are you? She asked. I'm your guardian, the man said. I've been watching over you. Why? Mary asked. Because you're in danger, the man said. The creature that was chasing you is a malevolent spirit. It's been drawn to you by your fear. Mary didn't know what to say. She had always believed in science, but now she was starting to question everything. What do I do now? She asked. You need to leave this place, the man said. It's not safe for you here. Mary nodded. She knew that the man was right. She couldn't stay in the mansion anymore. The man led Mary out of the mansion and into the night. They walked until they reached the edge of town. Goodbye, Mary, the man said. Be safe. The man disappeared into the darkness, and Mary was alone. She looked back at the mansion, its dark silhouette looming against the night sky. She knew that she would never go back. Mary tried to move on with her life after she left the mansion, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. She had nightmares about the creature every night, and she was constantly on edge. Her friends and family tried to support her, but they didn't understand what she had been through. They thought she was imagining things, and they tried to convince her to see a therapist. Mary refused. She knew that what she had seen and experienced was real. She just didn't know what to do about it. One night, Mary was walking home from work when she heard the footsteps behind her again. She turned around, but there was no one there. She quickened her pace, but the footsteps kept up. Mary ran down the street, but the footsteps were getting closer and closer. She turned a corner and ran into an alleyway. She was trapped. The creature appeared at the end of the alleyway. It was taller and more terrifying than Mary remembered. It had glowing red eyes and sharp teeth. Mary screamed and turned to run, but the creature was too fast. It grabbed her by the arm and pulled her towards it. Mary fought back, but the creature was too strong. It opened its mouth and bit her neck. Mary screamed in pain. The creature drank Mary's blood until she was lifeless. Then it dropped her body to the ground and disappeared into the darkness. The next morning, Mary's friends and family found her body in the alleyway. They were devastated. They couldn't understand how she had died. The police investigated Mary's death, but they couldn't find any leads. They concluded that she had been killed by a wild animal. But Mary's friends and family knew the truth. They knew that she had been killed by the creature that had followed her in the footsteps. Mary's death was a tragedy, but it was also a warning. The creature was still out there, and it was still hunting.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more similar horror stories.